Good morning. You are now officially watching a video on the internet about remote desktop. That makes you and I nerds, which means we're family. Family looks out for each other. Had I, Nicholas, had Nerd Fam, I would have known what I'm going to show you a long time ago. I'm not going to let that happen to you. I want to introduce to you a remote desktop solution that has been around for decades. And even after spending over 15 years in IT, I didn't know that this tool existed until about 6 or 7 months ago. But since that discovery, it's been my daily driver remote desktop solution, and it's called Remote Desktop Manager by Devolutions. I'm going to start by sharing how I ended up here, what convinced me to drop the remote solution that I was using, why I think this is a dope product, and then showcase a couple other features that might be appealing to you, whether you are a single nerd or on a team of nerds. Some of those features within the remote realm, and then some of them outside that realm. First and foremost, transparency is everything. This video is sponsored. I'm hoping that by me sharing my story of how I found this app and how it led to this business relationship, you'll give me a little leeway on my monetarily imposed bias. If you need some full details on this disclaimer, just check out the video description below. 6 or 7 months ago, in November of 2024, I was browsing the World Wide Web, and on a site that was once called Twitter, I stumbled upon a tweet from Swift On Security, who is thebomb.com. If you're not following them on Twitter, you better. And in the replies, a gentleman named Mark Andre, who uttered these magical words: "It is a good time to remind you that RDM Mac exists, and that if you want to access your Mac from Windows, RDM has an Apple remote desktop client that supports the full protocol. We've reverse engineered it." Devolutions took it to the penthouse and freaked it. So again, despite being in the IT field for over 15 years, despite using Screen Connect, TeamViewer, AnyDesk, SplashTop, Tight VNC, Real VNC, Parsec, RDP, Moonlight, Sunshine, Enable Take Control, Beyond Trust, Bombgar, despite being very vocal about my struggles with finding a good remote solution, despite this solution having a very, very powerful and functional free version, I had never heard of Remote Desktop Manager. Yet, when I make a video on TikTok covering my recent discovery of this app, out of the blue, the comments were filled with longtime fans of this software, which tells me one thing: I had the wrong friends growing up. That video did pretty well numbers-wise, both on TikTok and Instagram. It is those videos that got the attention of the Devolutions marketing team and prompted them to reach out to me and ask to work together back in January. So now that I've been using it for over 6 months as my daily driver, let's talk about it. Before, when I mentioned TeamViewer, AnyDesk, Screen Connect, SplashTop, those were all solutions that I had tried on either a personal or a professional level. And every single one fell short on one or two things that ended up as being deal breakers. So whether it was the price, device limit, multi-platform compatibility, data syncing across devices, or predatory subscription models, TeamViewer. One of the things that a lot of IT tools get wrong is trying to reinvent the wheel. This is where I think RDM shines. It takes the technology that is already there and then builds upon it. RDM is not an agent-based RMM, RMM being remote monitoring management. Oh my God, I've been out of the IT field only a couple months. I'm forgetting my acronyms. So no agent means no installers joining PCs to another organization. More on that in a bit. Of the past 6 months, free version has been the majority of what I've been using, so I'm going to show you some of my favorite aspects. Get this, you can get the app for free, and you can download the client and use it without logging in, which is unheard of in 2025. It's good to note here that the download page has links to videos, the forum, their documentation, which is plentiful. Those are all there if you need them. RDM works similar to a web browser where different sessions or windows are tabbed at the top. So I'll close out of these welcome tabs because I'm a goddamn professional. What we're left with is Home Sweet Home. On the far left side of this, you're going to notice we have a local source. So the database that we are building of all of our assets, all of our network devices, that lives on this machine only currently via a SQLite database. So here's a question for you. What is the worst part about trying out a new remote solution or a new RMM of any kind? Onboarding. pushing clients out via remote install, getting all the devices in your portal, whitelisting AV, EDR, software firewalls, all of that. Like I mentioned before, RDM doesn't try and reinvent the wheel. The technology for RDP is already in place. RDM just gives you a sexy and functional interface to get them all under one roof. Let me show you what I mean. RDM is a pretty dope feature that lets you scan your network for available network devices. I'm going to enter the subnet that I want to scan and let it do its thing. So after about a minute or so, depending on the size of your network that you're scanning, you're going to have a list of a bunch of live hosts. And what's cool is it shows you an icon to let you know which protocol it's utilizing to create that asset. And if a single host has RDP, SFTP, SSH all enabled, then you can save all of those different connections as like shortcuts, kind of with templates, which we'll get into a little bit later. So I'm just going to go through and import the ones that I know are legit and not these ones with just random IP addresses. So once they are all imported, you can go back through, arrange all of these hosts into folders for organization, dependent on how you like to keep things organized, which is something that I love. I love going through and making it fit for me. Something that is really awesome that I didn't do my first time, but now you're going to, is you can import any of the existing connections from other entities into RDM. So, just look at this menu here and see how many different formats that you can import. Pick your poison, dude. Hello, it's me from the future. In a different house. While editing this video after the move, I realized I was missing footage. I don't know why, I just lost a bunch of screen recordings from the middle of the video. As much as I want this to be like a 45-minute deep dive tutorial video of everything this app has to offer, I can't do that. So I'm just going to show you how I have it set up right now for my everyday use, how I use it, a couple of my favorite things, and then I'll let you get back to it. So right now I have all of my hosts broken up into home lab, workstations, and then other. For a few of my devices, I have like a root password, and then I might have a password with lesser permissions. And then for remote access, I pretty much just have a couple of users that I use. For the most part, my connections are RDP, Apple Remote Desktop, SSH, a little bit of FTP here and there, but not as much. And so what I'll typically do in a day is I will open up these different sessions and they just kind of stay open the majority of the day. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, your connections show as tabs in the top bar. Right now, I have an active RDP session going to one of my recording computers. I have an SSH tunnel to one of my NASs. This is my unraid NAS that has like all of my Docker containers on it and a couple of shares. An open SSH tunnel to the Mac Mini that is currently behind me. And that's what I do all of my editing on. And also a Apple Remote Desktop connected to that Mac Mini right now. You can see me moving it around right now. This is kind of RDM inception because I also have RDM running on the Mac Mini that I use all the time. See this big gap right here? That's where that footage is supposed to be. When you're considering a remote solution for yourself, one of the big deciding factors is going to be a lot of the functions within remote desktop. For me, my technical needs within a remote session are pretty limited now that I'm not doing technical stuff full time. I need a clipboard, I need copy paste, I need to be able to do PowerShell and scripts. Having a couple shortcuts like for Control-Alt-Delete are always handy. All of those things do exist within RDM. Most of the functionality that you'll see as far as actions are going to be on this actions tab. So a lot of the typical stuff, right? You can do your power options, you can execute scripts. They do have a pretty good window management system. So if I wanted to drag one of these windows out and have it be an individual window, you can do that. Right now, this RDP session is set to smart resizing. So if I were to actually make this window smaller, the image actually scales with the size of my window. And you can either launch it by resolution or by this setting. And when you're setting up an RDP shortcut, you have those display configuration options when you set up that template or that entry. If you grab the top bar of a window and you hover it over these options, it kind of acts like the Power Toys app that allows you to Fancy Zones? Is it Fancy Zones? You can pin a remote session to a tab and you can do split screen. So if you're somebody with an ultra wide and you want to set up split screens for different remote sessions, have SSH on the left, remote session on the right, you can do that. If you click and drag that out, you can bring it back into your main set of tabs. And then of course you can drag these tabs left and right to kind of reorganize their order. So of course, this is only scratching the surface of what RDM can do. This is pretty much how I use it day to day. When it comes to how you manage credentials, both as a person or as a team at your IT job, everyone is going to be a little bit different. Everybody has different preferences. Each job is going to have different standards, different standard operating procedures, so on and so forth. So while I'll highlight some of the key features of RDM and how it handles saving sensitive data, some of which I use, others that you might find useful. So there's two big talking points regarding this section: how you choose to store that sensitive data like credentials, and how you can use templates that can make working with many different sets of credentials very efficient. So let's touch on the templates first. RDM utilizes templates for saving information based on the host and the connection type. If your IT department is following along with some best practices, then hopefully you have some sort of zero trust or privileged access management solution in place. And for those of you unaware, I'm referring to the practice of both users and admins only having the access that they need to do their job, and then only elevating to more privileged accounts based on what is necessary. I'm oversimplifying those practices, and I'm going to oversimplify with this demonstration as well by creating two separate templates. One of them is going to be for like low-level access tasks, just like general remote desktop file sharing, app access. And then the other one is going to be for admin tasks or any system level tasks, which is going to have permission to do those tasks, whether manual or automated, at the system level. Now, Devolutions does have a PAM solution or their own privileged access management that's outside of the scope of this video, but that is out there. So to create a new template, you're going to go to File, Templates, hit the plus sign for new, local, and non-shared template. Again, we're acting as we're a one-person team, and we just have a local database of all this data on this workstation. Now, before I choose what I want to do, look at how many pre-built templates there are for all of the different types of connections. Just less stuff that you have to do if it's already there, ready for you. Something I appreciate. So I know that I need two accounts, one for a user and one for an admin. This isn't really applicable if it's just me and my home lab. This is more of like the IT side of things, but for the sake of demonstration, using these two templates, I can actually bake more than just the host name, username, and password into a shortcut to make a connection with something. So with like an RDP template, specifically, I can bake in other configurations like display, the colors, resource usage, authentication, gateway. Those are all things that you can usually bake into the RDP shortcut using the native tool. But Devolutions RDM actually gives you this access as well. So you're going to right click on a device, hit add from template, and now I can create sub entries for each host. So if I had one host that was my gaming PC back here, I could create an entry for RDP, FTP, and SSH. Each one of those shortcuts could have a different template with different settings and different credentials. And then those settings are just baked in, and you can just get in to do what you need to do. That template becomes a split-second double-click entryway to that device. So using these templates, you can create shortcuts for RDP, SSH, FTP, SFTP, iDRAC, ILO, Azure, Active Directory, root credentials for ESXi hosts. That is, if you bent over and took it during their 100,000% increase of renewal fees. Ridiculous. And then if necessary, you can open all of these connections simultaneously, and they'll all just run as different tabs at the top. When it comes to vaults and password managers, I am a 1Password shill. I love it. It pisses me off sometimes. but at its core, I love it. I don't know what part of my tech doesn't piss me off at some point. Devolutions does have the ability to integrate with password managers that you already have, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But they also have a couple solutions of their own if you're in need of that sort of thing. They have the Devolutions Hub Personal and then the Devolutions Hub Business. These are both cloud-hosted solutions for both personal and teams. The personal, which is actually free, is really just a vault for you in your environment. Even though it is a cloud-hosted solution, you can still connect it to your RDM data source and the one that just lives on your machine. So this allows you to save personal passwords, credentials, generate strong passwords to use in your templates. It also enables autofill within RDM. And then you can access it outside of your data source, like on a mobile device. Speaking of things I didn't want to get too deep on, but at the same time, I still want to mention it. Something that is a common favorite feature is being able to bake VPN connection configurations in with those templates. So you can add those VPN templates as an entry and just get into it super quickly. If you don't see your VPN of choice on this page that lists all of the ones that are tied in, if you click on the add-on manager, it shows you a bunch of other ones that they support, like Juniper, OpenVPN, Checkpoint is on there, Barracuda, Cisco. There's a bunch. Now, what's great about this is you can take one of those VPN templates and then apply it to a folder that has a bunch of your saved connections in it. And then that VPN template is automatically applied to all the connections in that folder. Oh yeah. Something that I honestly don't use as much now that it's just me and my home lab, but something that was very handy when I was managing our internal environment at the MSP. There was a massive surge of servers, both internal and customers, that got a Windows update that borked the recovery partition. So you had to go in there and manually either increase the size of the recovery partition so that this update could push, or you just had to rebuild it completely. So being able to script that out, save it, and then apply it to the servers in question, that was like a huge time save for us. And now I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like a lot of big name RMMs couldn't push those out as scripts overnight, via their agent and automation. But not everybody is footing the bill for RMMs. And so it's nice to know that there are solutions out there that have this functionality that's built in already. One of the last things on my favorites list that really benefits me as a person and as a tech still is my choice of workstations and how polished the Mac versions of these apps are. It's great. I prefer Mac OS, and the cross-platformness of RDM is super polished. My primary workstation is a 2020 M1 Mac Mini. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's the 8-core version. I'm able to do everything that I need to do with the Mac version of this client. And when I jump onto my primary mobile workstation, which is an M2 MacBook Air, I'm in the same boat. As someone who prefers Mac OS for a workstation OS, but is heavily outnumbered by Windows and Linux-based operating systems in this house, I needed my Mac to be able to be my central management point. And I don't feel like I have to make any compromises. It feels like an application made for Windows, but with the polish of Mac OS apps. It's great, but it doesn't stop there. Devolutions also has clients for Linux, Android, and iOS. So that should be enough to give you an idea of how the application works and what you can do with the free version. So now I'm going to showcase some of the paid features that are in RDM, which is RDM for Teams. And this is geared more towards teams of people, but I could imagine that there is a singular person with a large enough home lab, or maybe they're doing IT out of their home or home-based business that could benefit from something like this. Integrations is the name of the game when it comes to RDM for Teams. So being able to tie into other platforms like Active Directory, AWS, 1Password, Bitwarden, IT Glue, Landsweeper, Google Workspace, Entra ID. There is an extensive list of vendors that RDM can integrate with. So if you want to see a list of all of the compatible vendors, another link that'll be in the description is devolutions.net/integration center. I think that's right. As you start to share information, this is where some of the RDM for Teams features come into play. So by default, RDM creates a local database via SQLite or SQLite. But if you decide that you want your data source to be a full-blown SQL database, that option is there as well. I know what you're thinking. There's no way this dude knows anything about SQL. In fact, I bet he calls it SQL. You know what I say to that? You are correct. I don't know a damn thing about SQL, which is why I'm glad that there are alternative options like Devolutions Server, which you can host locally on your internal network. Or if you're down with cloud hosting, you can use the Devolutions Hub for personal or business. Not only does RDM support data sources like SQL, you can also do cloud hosted SQL if you want to do it in Azure. Something that I would have loved while I was working in IT was being able to send files to internal and external contacts securely and easily. We had, our encrypted solutions with both Barracuda and M365. Sometimes files got a little bit larger than email wanted to handle. And then you could get into using Teams and OneDrive and all that stuff. It is messy. Devolutions has actually developed a tool called Devolutions Send, which is a secure method to generate a link to share sensitive data instead of using insecure methods like email. If you are on a team, you can just use the in-app messenger to send back and forth. That is end-to-end encrypted, or you can create shareable links for people internal or external. So if you're interested in just trying that out as a standalone product without getting into RDM, they actually make it a standalone product that is free to use. It has some restrictions like the 1 megabyte upload limit, which is understandable for it being free. But if you want to check that out, that'll be a link in the description as well. Multi-factor authentication is no doubt a critical part of your personal security with stuff inside the Devolutions ecosystem and outside. Now, one thing that I'm glad that they take seriously is the integration with MFA. And how it is deployed within your infrastructure is going to depend on whether you're a single user or a team of users. On top of the normal authenticators, it also supports the Devolutions authenticator, which is a part of their workspace suite. Or if you are using YubiKeys from Yubico or Duo, those are compatible as well. By now, I'm hoping that I have showed you something that has piqued your interest. And even better, I hope that you've never heard of Devolutions before and that this is kind of blowing your mind like it did for me in 2024. If my pain and struggles that lasted years trying to find a good solution for myself results in you finding your next favorite thing, I'm all about it. As I was writing the script and fact-checking myself so I don't look like a goober, I came across a video from the Devolutions YouTube channel covering what they had added in the most recent update. This is another thing I like about this company is that they are very prominent when it comes to creating content, both covering features that they're releasing and educating users. I think that's something that's super important and usually not something that's budgeted for. So I was happy to see this. So regarding these new updates, the thing that caught my eye was the AI session integration. I know you heard AI and you've probably checked out. It's not what you think. RDM allows you to link your favorite LLM to RDM via API. So you don't actually have to leave RDM in order to talk with your favorite chatbot. You can just do it right from within the interface. It was a tiny little thing. I thought that was cool. Again, speaking to their mantra of not trying to reinvent the wheel, but trying to make access to all of your favorite tools and how you do things the most accessible and pleasurable experience possible. Pleasure. So along with that video link, let me give you another wall of links in case you decide to get curious. All of these are going to be in the video description. Devolutions.net is the main homepage for everything in DevoTown. To get started with the remote desktop manager, that is that same URL / remote desktop manager. And then for a list of all of the other applications that they offer for free, that URL / free. If you're thinking that the Teams version of RDM is more up your alley, either as an individual or if you're on a team and you want to try out all of those features of RDM for Teams for free, if you go to devolutions.net / remote desktop manager / trial, you get a free 30 days. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me. Don't ever stop being nerdy, all right? Good night.